Hello and welcome everybody to the Hearth. Today we are going to be speaking with Allison, Kate, and I. We're going to be speaking about living our authentic lives or being ourselves. And in the world of pre and perinatal somatics, that means starting to get to know those memories that are in our bodies. We call them implicit somatic memories, and be able to differentiate those from our authentic impulses. And I have a teacher who had this, he would always say, we do this work to remove the curtain so we can see God. And then we find out that even the curtain is God. And so there's something about the authentic self that there is a discovery or an uncovering that happens. But then in that discovery and uncovering, there's also acceptance of those memories that weren't optimal and what we had to do to survive them. So even those parts get included in the whole authentic self. And but there is something to really learning how to witness and feel the difference between the two, and also just to be able to hold both. I'll stop there and I'll pass the baton to somebody else.
You want to go, Allison? You want me to go?
I don't know, I could jump in. I'm sitting with, what I've learned from Anna Chitty, and I know part of this is also John Chitty's creation, but I've learned it from Anna and Liz Chitty, and it takes off on what you're saying, Eileen. It's to really see the value of who you are in all sides of yourself. Like often people believe they need to surgically remove and throw away parts of themselves, or they don't see them as parts of themselves and they criticize them as bad and not good, and they're judgmental of it. And what I've learned is that criticism and judgment just keeps you stuck in the negativity. But this wonderful two-chair process that I learned from Anna Chitty is you actively sit in each chair, and someone holds presence for you in the middle. And as you actively go into each chair, you're feeling into what's good about it. What is the beauty in each side? What are the judgments? What are the criticisms? And then underneath that, really what's good about it. And when you actively go back and forth, it starts to move the energy rather than the two sides being very separate from each other and opposed to each other. They start to, it's almost as if they're in an energetic dialogue. And I've had just such beautiful moments opening up to the beauty of parts of myself I'd rather not know. And then parts of myself that I like, but they're, a little too much on their own and not integrated into the rest of me. And so in getting to know my authentic self, I'm learning how to, I don't know any better word, but to just be more chill, to be more just softer, more present, less reactive, and curious. Like I love that word, curious, curiosity about what's good in each side. And I'm using that with my clients a lot now, and they're really benefiting from it. And it kind of makes me happy. Like it gives me this hope, it's a happy place to feel that. Rather than have it be an inner conflict, it becomes more of you.
Yeah, that sounds really enlivening. What's good about it? Um, it definitely will create more flow as opposed to what's the issues with it. So that sounds really lovely. Um, and I really like the idea of exploring the different parts. I think our topic tonight, like I think what comes up for me is I'm a breech human, and I have a little book I'm working on called Breech Head Up in a Head Down World. And breeches are different. People who are born, vaginally breech like myself, or even develop breechly, just are born C-section. But I feel like breeches do things differently. And we're often just caught like, well, you're trying to do blah, blah, blah. Like for a long time, Ray used to say to me, you're trying to get there before you get there. And I thought, that's probably a breech pattern because we're born feet first. And there's something about getting there um, where you land. And, that's kind of landing on your feet is not often what babies do. So we do things differently. And for a long time, I think I have been trying to put myself in a vertex. Like, maybe let me be like all the head down babies,
Mm.
and or let me be more like a water person. I'm a fire. I'm mostly fire. So I'm like, okay, how I want to really like this part of me and I do like this part of me that's fiery. But you got to learn how to temper the fire. But I like the idea of being my authentic person, my authentic self. And authenticity is something that I really began to think more about when I met you, Eileen.
Mm.
Because that finding your own authentic impulse is something that we talk about in pre and perinatal work. And whether it's finding that right tempo, so something's not pushing the tempo, or finding that right timing when we move forward in something, all has to do with our natural sequence. And in pre and perinatal work, we're often thwarted in that out of necessity or just out of what what's perceived that what needs to happen. Um, so I do think it's an important pre and perinatal practice just to deepen into your authentic self and really begin to embrace it. What's good about it? I like that.
Mhm. You know, I really am so grateful for that aspect of what's good about it. Um, for when I think about how I've lived much of my life before I came into this work, even when I was doing other healing modalities, I've been into many different healing modalities for many decades. And when I think about myself, like living my authentic self or living my life as myself, I feel like those impulses were there. And the what's good about it, um I really appreciate that because I can look back and I can see all the healthy impulses. Even though I wasn't where I am today. I mean, today I feel so in myself and I see that I was dissociated. And I also, as I was feeling into it just now, it was almost like there was a cracked windshield in between in my life, me and my life.
Mm.
And so a lot of my experiences when I feel into earlier parts of my life was this confusion or frustration of trying to be able to feel my life, to feel my way forward with a cracked windshield. I've never actually said it before and like that until just now as I was feeling into it. And and so now as I am able to manifest as myself very easily and be able to include those adaptive parts, the survival parts with a lot of love and gentleness, um, I'm so grateful to be able to live with so much more ease. I don't struggle in my mind so much. I don't struggle in my body so much. And at the same time, I have a lot more compassion for all of those decades that I lived in that way. And I can really feel warmth for myself instead of judgment. And it's still growing. It's still growing. And what I'm really discovering is that my authentic self is really loving and generous and does that very easily. And there were more crusty parts, like that broken windshield had a lot of just like that, like the sharp, jagged, crusty parts that were there. And then I discovered that, oh, that was just what happened to me. That was my lineage. That was the people in my lineage that and their adaptive behaviors that I was imprinted with. And I just feel so grateful for my life. I'm almost 60 years old and I finally feel like I have a clear windshield.
Oh, that's very inspiring.
Yeah, it's beautiful what you're saying.
Mhm.
I love that analogy with the cracked and clear windshield. Thank you, Eileen. I'm sitting here kind of feeling into what do I want to say about my authentic self. And what comes to me is what we've talked about before around our sentient being. And I'm finding that I'm feeling more and more spontaneity, almost that there's like an involuntary, spontaneous impulse or flow that comes from a deeper place in me as a result of looking at these very early imprints and working with to soften and resolve them. And I'm finding more and more that I'm not so afraid to just express my love. I know many years ago I was just a little timid about, having my heart wide open and just letting it all out. And I don't feel that fear anymore. Sometimes I can be a little too much for people because I don't feel that fear, but I really am enjoying and loving that place in myself where there's just more spontaneous flow that I trust.
Mm-hmm.
Like there's I don't know what you would call it, like a spontaneous flow from the heart, a spontaneous flow from the spirit, a spontaneous impulse that I don't feel like I have to keep such a tight check and balance with because of clearing so many imprints. I have, I guess the word would be more trust in myself and what wants to surface and come out. And that's a wonderful feeling, and a beautiful side effect of being willing to go into these very early places and to meet them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, the benefit of doing early trauma healing or any trauma healing really, or any exploration of what shapes or forms us, is more acceptance and uh, and where you your my mind is less engaged with what's wrong with me, which was really one of my in my imprints. Being born feet first is not right. But and other ways too. So you think less like that and you start to I often find that there's nothing in there. Or there can be a creative impulse, a writing impulse, or a curriculum impulse, or a planning impulse.
Mm-hmm.
Like I remember what gets in the way sometimes of me living my authentic impulses. I start planning something. Um, I have a lot of gifts in that area of the sequence.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, so I find myself less and less uh, engaged with my mind about something in the future or in the past, and just orienting to what I want from my one life on planet Earth, um, with the time I have left. And so just walking the balance between, what I am doing and what I want. Um, and how do I deepen into the beautiful things for planet Earth and being incarnate. Um, before I end, before I go off back to where we came from. But what do I want for Kate um, in this one life? That's one of my big central questions.
I really related to something you said, Kate, where you talked about the quiet and the impulse. And I felt like that really resonated for me. That's when I'm manifesting from what I would consider my authentic self. Um, Even now, as I'm speaking, I don't feel my mind working. It's like, the mind is kind of a quiet field, and then there are words that arise from it. And the way that I learn to express myself in words and the way I learned to learn had a lot of struggle in it. And because of what I was describing earlier about that cracked windshield, I would look to others and um, try to live through some kind of, it's kind of like the moon reflecting from the sun. And now I feel like I can feel my own light. So I actually am another sun instead of just reflected light. And also, my words arise very easily, and I'm sometimes delighted and surprised by them. That it feels like a really peaceful place from which the words arise, and or where ideas or if I'm writing something or doing a class together, that that creativity arises from that quiet, empty place as impulses. And so now instead of struggle, it feels good. Like I feel pleasure
Mm.
and ease. And long ago, in a womb surround, I remember saying, I want to experience pleasure and ease. But at that point, I had no idea. I had no reference for this in my body then. So it's a very organic process where it it arises like from a spring inside.
Nice.
Yeah, that's really great.
It feels the blueprint.
Mhm.
It feels like the blueprint.
I'm I'm also feeling into like as I become more spontaneous and authentically myself, I realize I have more ease making choices. Whereas before I doubt myself and is this a good choice? And I would labor over it. And I just know I have a gut knowing that I trust more of, yes, this is a good choice, or no, this doesn't feel right. And it's a faster process. Um, and then the other thing I've noticed in becoming more authentically myself is, the willingness to kind of cycle through challenging feelings. I have more courage to do that. And when I cycle through, for example, when my husband died, the courage to feel that level of grief.
Mhm.
And as I learned to ride those waves and ride those waves, and grief is really a hard feeling for me to feel for whatever reason, loss and grief. And so as I got support to ride through it, it opened up something in me about where all women who lost their partners, or all men who lost their partners, or any loss, like there was something in me that opened to humanity on that level. It wasn't just my feeling, it was a condition of the human experience. And it just opened me up to having compassion, for anyone who experienced loss in a new way, because I was willing to be myself in that process and to get support and go through it. And I love that feeling of opening, I don't know what else to call it, but opening to the human condition. Like you go deep in yourself and then you feel it in everyone. And so it's authentically you, but it also touches into the authenticity in all of us.
I really relate. Thanks, Allison.
And the more we can feel that authenticity in ourselves, the more the authenticity will arise in the other.
Mm-hmm.
That's the way the blueprint works.
Yeah.
Helping people find their authentic self through integrating the early layers. That's really our work. Does that feel complete for tonight?
Yeah.
Yeah, feels like a good
Yeah.
completion.
Thanks,
Okay.
everyone.
We'll see you, was it next week?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
All right.
See you all next week.